She's going to mark her diagnosis as wrong, providing that a statistic to future patient. And that's why you see here that her score is 752. Excellent. Patient index, acting on the second example. Remember, operation records in hand is solution number 2. Let's see in patient index the ICD-10 admin model of the OmniDrive. Programming a diagnosis with the differential diagnosis, the required labs, and the common symptoms. You go to this tab, ICD-10 admin, and you see that patient index will provide important medical data. The ICD code mapping 10 to 9, and in the future 10 to 11 to 10, the scientific name, the percent rate is being misdiagnosed, if it's hereditary or not, the consumer name, and you have an option to flag the information as accurate or good or false. In the tab for the differential diagnosis, you enter the ICD codes of the diseases that this disease can be easily confused with. In the required labs, you program the lab that are a good idea to have to certify diagnosis, to avoid a misdiagnosis. And here you specify the symptoms of a disease for a patient to have the e-patient ratio. The next step in the score factors, you're going to see the differential diagnosis applied for you as a warning. And also in the list of diagnosis, when you click it, you also see in the list of diagnosis the differential diagnosis. In the list of diagnosis, you see the required labs and also the symptoms and the symptoms ratio. So let's see the OmniDroid programming itself to help all the patients. Let's see the feature of ICD-10 admin. That's going to be done by e-patients for all the patients. So here you see that this diagnosis of retinal detachment actually is the first patient who has it and has nothing to show. But that patient becomes a super patient and he goes into Google mode. You see there are not many warnings here, but then that patient goes into Google mode and finds important info to provide to future e-patients. You see here that he goes into Google mode and finds the differential diagnosis for retinal detachment is retinoschisis. He also finds in the internet and decides to collaborate with other patients that vitreous hemorrhage is another confusion of the retinal detachment. And he finds that also maybe some fundus laboratories, fundus photos are a good idea to have. And he also finds the symptoms for that disease and he decides to tell future patients. If another patient decides this information is wrong, he can flag it. You see the hand, yellow hand up there. Now you have programmed the OmniDroid for future patients, and you even put the ICD code 9 for this disease. So when you go to the score factors now, I know that the patient is one of the differential diagnosis for him as a good resource to ask questions to his doctor. You see, retinal detachment can be confused with retinoschisis provided by another patient. A differential diagnosis is important for a doctor, and it's more important for you not to be misdiagnosed. Remember my story and Tricia Torre's story. Now you see the differential diagnosis also in the list of diagnosis, and you see the required labs, and you see also the symptoms of the disease. It's important for you to know, why do I have a detachment if I don't have flashes, floaters, or cortin? That's the first thing you need to ask yourself. Is there something that looks alike that doesn't have any symptoms? And you see that retinoschisis is the poster boy. You add one of your symptoms and then you get your symptoms ratio. The OmniDroid is very important for you If you don't have any symptom of a disease and you're diagnosed with a disease, you have to find out if there's some differential diagnosis for that disease. You see the yellow, the blue present, you have your symptoms ratio provided by other patients. Here you can flag the info if you think is inaccurate, and then some admin will enter with superpower, and and you will see here when you see it, it's flagged with that red F, so that you know that there's a possibility that information provided by another patient is not accurate and you don't use it. Now let's see the way GPS-like feature in action. A patient discovers an important fact about a disease and uses the ICD-10 warning admin model to warn future users, to warn other patients. You go to the code admin and select ICD-10 warning admin. You select your disease and then you write your warning factors. Read here, according to any buyer for retinoschisis, the best management is to do nothing, warning other patients. This U means unverified warning, needs approval from an expert. It is normal to have vision loss in the peripheral. Do not let anybody convince you that your retina is detached just because you did not pass the fingerprint test on top of your head. This is verified by an expert. And this warning is flagged by the community. That's why you see the F. You see those warnings will appear in the score factors for patients to have an idea of their disease. Now, let's see it in action. Let's see a patient index acting like a web GPS feature warning other patients. Patients warning one another when they discover important facts during their diagnosis. Let's do a short demo. This patient was diagnosed with retinal detachment. He's going to get the warning factor of the differential diagnosis and that he needs to check the medical record, and if he's missing a second opinion, and if there's a mismatch in opinions, and many other warnings. But on top of those warnings, another patient can decide to add more warnings for him depending on his past experience. So he comes to the warning admin, finds the disease retinal detachment, and goes to the warning factors and start writing warning for other patients. And he creates a warning, and then when you see the score factor for that patient who has that diagnosis, you will see the warning that another patient provided. EpatientIndex, I call it the Way GPS app for e-patients. You see the warning there, published to you by another e-patient. Important information for your shared decision making. Let's do a longer demo to take advantage of the opportunity to raise awareness for my nonprofit, Degenerative Retinoschisis Society, trying to save 7% of the population from a surgery in their eyes that they don't need. Let's see this example. This patient was diagnosed with the focus of my nonprofit, retinoschisis, right eye, X33.101. If you go to his list of factors, there's not a lot of information. But then Another patient came through my webpage in the Degenerative Retinoschisis Society and gathered a lot of information from there. Degenerative retinoschisis is very common with up to 7% in normal person. We have already seen this. It can easily be confused with retinal detachment by the non-expert observer, and in difficult cases, even the expert have problem differentiating the two. There's always vision loss in the region of the schisis. The e-patient goes to another link and finds more important information about retinoschisis. From David G. Browning, MD, PhD, he reads and he checks that the importance of retinoschisis is that it can be misdiagnosed as a retinal detachment. Patients with retinoschisis need to know that they may have areas of peripheral visual loss. That's important for a patient to know, so he doesn't worry. He goes to another link in my compilation of web page about retinoschisis, and he finds that from Harvey Linkoff and Ingrid Crazy, an online library, well-recognized retinoschisis. Confusion of the retinoschisis does occur. Confusion with retinal detachment occurs and results in unnecessary surgeries. He wants to warn other patients about this important info. He goes to another link. From any buyer, very good link. He learns that it is recommended that in cases of retinoschisis, either without or even with break, or even with schisis detachment, that no treatment be done. And he sets on a mission to warn other patients. He also learns, conclusion, in surveying the spectrum of retinoschisis, we may conclude that the best management is to do nothing. Enough with all that important information not to touch your retinoschisis. He sets on a mission to warn other patients using the ICD-10 admin. He creates the warning, and let's leave it there because we have already seen how we create the ICD warning. Remember that if that information is not accurate, you can flag it as inaccurate, and then there's some admin who will verify if that information is true, and that information will be removed if it is not true. Solution to the problem number 3, prevent doctor crime practice. It sounds harsh, but I'll show you that doctor crime practice is legal and it exists. 99.9999% of doctors will not violate the Hippocratic Oath. But there's a 0.00001% that will violate the Hippocratic Oath, and there's no police for that. And that also damages the reputation of the novel doctors in the 99.9999%. It is legal for a doctor to write your diagnosis to the medical records and not tell you. It is called therapeutic privilege. If you don't believe me, just read your medical record challenge, and you'll be surprised how many diseases are written to the medical records and you were never told. This proves that it is perfectly legal. If you still think it is illegal, Answer this question. How can a patient ever produce the evidence of non-disclosure? How can you prove a doctor never told you when you've been alone with him in a room like maybe 10, 20 times? Can a malicious doctor in the 0.00001% use the above superpower that allows him to write the diagnosis to the record and not disclose it to you verbally? Can a malicious doctor use that power to cause harm and at the same time avoid a suit? If your answer is yes, then that means that doctor crime practice exists and doctor crime practice is legal. Most people go to a hospital like they're going to a religious sanctuary where they're only expecting to be cured and never expect to be victimized. The solution is to end medical paternalism, read your medical records, and get a second opinion. Let's see this video. Fraudulent treatment to cancer-free patients. If you think doctor crime practice doesn't exist, explain me this. A doctor giving cancer treatment to cancer-free patients just for greed. He confessed, I have violated the Hippocratic Oath and violated the trust of my patients. And let's check from his Wikipedia page. 553 people, according to a federal investigation, scammed into getting chemotherapy treatments, killer treatments that they didn't need. And read this. A patient that had 177 unnecessary chemo treatment just for crime. So we have to admit that doctor crime practice actually exists. Solution. EpatientIndex will make sure that nothing about us without us. 553 patients of the same doctor signing informed consent for killer treatment without a second opinion. EpatientIndex will reduce your score if you don't get a second opinion. This is patient malpractice combined with unchecked medical paternalism combined with doctor crime practice. Your best bet is to become an e-patient. Nothing about us without us. Read your official medical records, not the online. With being an e-patient comes participatory medicine. With participatory medicine comes informed shared decision making. With informed shared decision, medical paternalism is over and doctor crime practice is prevented. EpatientIndex score, your EpatientIndex score is more important than your FICO score, and it will measure your level of patient malpractice. Solution number 4 to the health problem. EpatientIndex brings the power of social networking to the solution. There's a global group chat for the entire e-patient community and a group chat for each diagnosis. When a diagnosis is added to your profile, you're automatically assigned to a group chat for that diagnosis. You can post your questions and other patients will answer them. It's like a stackoverflow.com for your particular disease. You can also add friends and have private chats.